So this month, the theme is I am guided. And I think sometimes it can feel, we can not feel guided. We can feel like we are out in this crazy world all by ourselves, that we are alone and isolated in this process. And constantly, every day, bombarded with choices and things and stuff that, and it's pretty crazy. And one of the things that I learned was that decision fatigue is a thing. It's that, exhausted, sort of mentally foggy kind of state that we get in when we've had to make so many choices. And it can make us aggravated and, irritable and stressed. I learned that the average American makes around 35,000 conscious decisions a day. So not like, the things that are unconscious, but 35,000 conscious decisions a day. And, those are mundane things like, is it time to run the dishwasher? But it's also things like, should I retire? Where am I going to live? What job am I going to be doing? All of these other big decisions as well. In the last 3 decades, grocery stores went from having 9,000 items roughly to 47,000 items. And we think of these choices as sort of being a really great thing, like, wow, we can have the exact toothpaste that we like. But we don't take into account the weight on our psyche, the how it holds us and that impact. Decision fatigue can lead to a lack of confidence in our decisions. It can lead to a sense of confusion around what those decisions are. A procrastination is one that we use a lot in our household. Impulsivity, making decisions because we just can't do anymore. We just, whatever. And the desire for someone else to tell us what to do. So I know for me, I lose a sense of confidence, or maybe I worry that I might be happier if I made a different choice, if my choice was different, that I might. And so I do kind of, when I have a lot of decisions to make, especially big ones, that I move into that, what if I made the wrong choice? And in school, we were taught that there's a right answer and a wrong answer. We were not taught that every decision we make or every answer we come up with is a way to learn about who we are and how the world works. Edison, when he was asked, how did you keep going when you failed so many times making the light bulb? And he said, I never failed. I just learned 10,000 ways that it didn't work. And so we can move to a sense of trust that there is no wrong answer. Knowing that all of the decisions that we've made in our past have led us to where we are right now and who we are. And that all of the difficult experiences we've had along the way also have a gift to offer us. We are a different person because of those experiences, and we become stronger, we become more empathetic, we become more connected, more love through those experiences. So, as we're forced to make lots of decisions, one of the things, again, that comes up is sort of a self-created sense of confusion. I don't know what to do. I know I've said that many times. I don't know what my next step is. I don't know how I'm going to proceed in this. And when my boys, I was going to say when my boys were little, but I still do this to them. When they say, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know, my son's, I was talking to him about next year, like what's going to happen for him. It's like, I don't know. And the question that I asked, which is kind of annoying, but it actually can shift you. And that is, what if you did know, what would the answer be? Because when we ask ourselves that question, what if you did know? It can move us to the fact that we really do know. It's just not in this crazy consciousness. We often know that answer. And I think sometimes we use that not knowing to overcome a sense of helplessness. We have this, like it feels like, oh, I don't know what to do. And so we can kind of get into this space of enjoying that place of not having to choose. Sometimes it's easier than facing a decision that we know the answer to, but we're a little afraid of, or we don't necessarily know all of the steps. So, it's scary to start in that direction if we don't know how we're going to actually get there, but we know the next step. Ernest Holmes, who is the writer of The Science of Mind, and he is the founder of what's now called the Centers for Spiritual Living. He says that confusion comes from a sense of separation. I have shared in the past that I brought my copy here just to show you. I read this book by this thing called You every day. And sometimes I read a paragraph, sometimes I read a chapter, and it fills me with insight and inspiration. So in this book, he says, confusion comes because you are looking only at the surface. If you put a straight stick in a pool of water and then ruffle the surface of the pool, the stick will appear bent. It is not bent, however, it is merely the disturbance of the surface of the water that causes it to appear bent. If you swim under the water beneath the disturbed surface and open your eyes, you will see a straight stick. The bent stick was really an illusion. And so it is with confusion. It exists as a condition, but not as a reality. The mirage is in your own consciousness. If confusion comes, take your intellect and dive deep into your pool of peace. Through an act of faith, open your eyes, and you will see that there is no confusion. So sometimes the fear and overwhelm of decision making can lead us to procrastination. When I blank, I will blank. When I have the money, I will then take the class or go on the vacation. When I lose weight, then I'll start dating again. When when I have the time, I'll make that phone call or I'll write that letter. And it keeps us from having to make that decision, from having to do write that, the effort that it takes to do that thing, the fear, walking through the fear to start dating again, all of those things. There's fear that's keeping us, and procrastination is a defense mechanism to keep us from moving into that, through that fear. One of the things that's happening in our lives, my son Ian, his car broke. And he took it to the local mechanic. Our regular mechanic that's been servicing our cars for decades hasn't been available. So we took it to the local mechanic that we don't really know very well. And they said, well, you can, it's this part, we can put this part in, but it actually needs all these other things to be done. And so we've been kind of left with, what do we do? Do we fix that one part and get it running and then fix things as he has money to fix it? Do we get everything fixed, which is actually more expensive than the car is worth? Do we just sell it for junk, scrap parts? And so we have opted to do nothing. So it's sitting in our driveway and we're kind of going, I think there is the procrastination excuses. When the other mechanic is available, then we will take the car. But at this point, it's just sitting and he's using another one of the cars we have at the hospital. But the thing that with procrastination, it adds an extra weight. There's a sense of of guilt or of pressure that is added whenever we think about them. And I know that I'm guessing that there's quite a few of us that have the same issue right now with our taxes. Right, so the pile of papers that are the taxes are sitting on the desk or where in the file or wherever they are. And every time you pass by that, you think, oh gosh, I gotta do the taxes. And there is, physically, we can, if we're in tune, we can feel that pressure on us. And so procrastination, it keeps building. And when there's lots of little things, like I know I have a cucumber in my vegetable drawer that I bought when I thought I was going to want a salad, and then it's been cold and wet, and I just said soup. And I know that it is going to go bad. And every time I pull out the celery and carrots to make soup, I'm like, oh, there's things all over our lives that we are procrastinating with. And whenever we see them, we have this heaviness. But the nice thing about that is that whenever we actually get around to doing that, there's a release of energy. And depending on the amount of pressure, when you get those taxes done, it's gonna be really good. And so we can feel that release of energy. The opposite of with decision fatigue, another aspect that we turn to is impulsivity. When we're so tired of doing what is right, of taking all these steps, of going through the process, where we finally just say, forget it. Like, I don't care. I'm just gonna do this thing. We had a forest fire less than 3 miles from our house a couple of years ago. And it was the one, luckily for us, it was the big one that was right over the Portland watershed, the Bull Run watershed. And so there were a lot of firefighters put on that fire. And they kept it between 2 roads. One went to the watershed and one would go to our house. And we were never even on an evacuation like level 1 of like, you should probably get your stuff together. But if it would have jumped that road, we would have probably immediately gone to leave right now, because it was so close and it was downhill from us. So it never did jump that road. So I had lots of time to do this, but I went through all of our stuff. Like all of the things that, the treasured items that we have moved from house to house, that we keep in long-term storage, the baby clothes that I loved, the boys' artwork, the old letters and photographs and all of these things. And so I sat in the shop, and it was summertime, so it was warm. And I went through all of these things day after day. And I came to a place where I was like, you know what, I couldn't do any more. And there were a few more boxes, and I was like, forget it. Actually, I use a shorter F word, but forget it. I can't do this anymore. And I thought maybe, there might be something in that I would be sad if it was gone, but I can't do it. It was too much. And I think, when you're thinking about this could be gone forever, it had a much more intense decision making. Like, if we should this and move it to the next house, has a different energy than if I never saw this again and it burned in a fire. How it feels pretty, had a lot of energy behind it. So, but I think the most dangerous reaction to the decision fatigue is the desire for someone else to tell us what to do. When we kind of have this desire to be back in that childhood age where we had someone who cared for us, who loved us, who had our best interest in mind and told us this is what you need to do. And politics and religions have used that desire to their advantage, to control people, because we let them because we want to not have to make those decisions. And that's been the hardest selling point in New Thought, is that you are responsible for your life. Like, you are the highest authority to what is right for you. There isn't someone, up here telling you this is what you have to do, this is what's right, and this is what's wrong. We encourage you, we invite you to tap into your own inner guidance. So what is the solution to this, the decision fatigue problems, all of these things that add up in our lives that happen in different ways, but we all have experienced these aspects. So what if you had that parent that loved you, that is willing to show you and guide you in the best direction at all times? And you have a silent partner within you that has your best interest, whose power is inexhaustible, whose wisdom and knowledge is infinite, and who is constantly connected to everything, past, present, and future. This interconnectedness that knows way more beyond what our own physical, individual human being can know. So, it's easy to think, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what the next step is. But the more that we exercise and begin to trust our spiritual muscles, the easier the answers come. Because spirit is part of everything and knows everything. It has no problem. So when we have a problem that we're facing, we know that we're in that surface thinking, the surface of the water that Mr. was talking. So we can shift from the appearance of the problem and ask that inner guidance for a solution. So as we shift from the problem to what it is we actually want, to the solution, asking for and expecting an answer. We can ask, what is the solution? And so by training your mind to focus on that perspective of the solution, the resolution is inevitable. Like, you will have an answer. And the thing that I find is amazing is that often the solution seems so obvious. Like this problem, I was like, how can we schedule this thing? It's like not gonna work. And then, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, it's actually, everybody's available on Tuesday. But it doesn't, if you're not looking for the solution, if you're only looking at the problem, that's what we experience. And I find that sometimes not only is it just mind-blowingly like, why did I not think of that? But it's also easy. Like when we ask and are willing to listen to what the solution is, often it just comes and it's amazing. We were in Las Vegas, my husband and I, with our kids. Our youngest lives in Maine, right now, lives in Portland, Maine. And so we had this family vacation. And normally, historically, all of our family vacations have been camping or, really low expenses. We go hiking, we, go to the ocean and we walk on the beach, we play board games in the house, whatever. And it has not been expensive. We have a condo timeshare kind of point system. So we have a house with a kitchen and I cook all our meals. We don't go out to eat very often. And so we were in Las Vegas, and in Las Vegas, like that's not what we do. So, I mean, we had been to Las Vegas and gone hiking, but our eldest was not really interested in hiking. So we went to shows and we went to little adventures and we went out to eat a lot. And about midway through, Jim and I were kind of looking at, talking in the evening and we're like, gosh, we're spending a lot of money. This is really not what we budgeted for. We weren't really thinking this. And it's wonderful to be in a partnership with someone who supports this kind of thinking. So we kind of went, okay, this vacation was divinely inspired. We thought, let's do this with our family. We know that the purpose of this is for us to have time together, and this is what we're experiencing, where we are, and what we can do. And we kind of got into this more of, letting the abundance of the universe flow through us and that we'll all be okay. And really soon, like within 24 hours, he had told me that our house insurance was going up substantially. And when we moved to our house a few years ago, we had switched from our favorite insurance company to this other one because the other, it was too expensive. So he's like, I'm just going to call the original insurance agent and just see, what we can do. And when he got off the phone, he increased our coverage like by a quarter, like substantially, and saved us $3,000.
Wow.
And this is how the universe works. You ask for a solution, and part of the next thing is having something to tack your decisions. So having a dream or a vision or an idea of what it is you want that you can then tack your, is this leading me to this or is it leading me away from this? And with a vision, with an idea of what you're trying to create, you're basically asking the divine, this is what I want. And you're also using your own brain. Your brain has a part called the reticular activating system. And its job is to filter out the chaos of the world and bring you exactly what you want, what it thinks you want. So, until you set that intention, until you set this idea of this is what I want, you have the world bringing all of this out. But as soon as you begin to focus, then the universe, the divine, and your brain can start bringing you things to support that. I've shared many times before about wanting women nearby. We live kind of at the base of Mount Hood, right? It's an hour from all of my friends in Portland when we moved there. And I really wanted some women friends to hang out with. And we went to this thing called preschool. So I had put this out like to the universe. I really want women friends that are, closer than an hour drive. And we went to this thing called Tree School, which is people who have forests managing, and it was put on by the state. And we were in one of the classes, and one of the women just was describing where she lived. And I was like, this sounds really close to where we live. And so we went to talk with her afterward, and their house is like 2.5 miles down our road, their driveway off of this 2.5 miles. And just to add the craziness of the universe, our son Sam, the one who lives in Portland, Maine, was going to college at a little 2,500 student college in Minnesota. So it's not local, it's distant. Turns out her son Sam also was going to Carleton at the same time. Like, wow. How do you can't do that. You can't plan that. But the universe will bring that. The more that you're in this work, the more that you put that vision out there, the magic happens. So, we've also been given free will. We've been ingrained with our upbringing and society's beliefs. And so it can be easy to stay at that surface of the water thinking. We've been taught that the truth is outside of ourselves, that we need to turn to someone else to know what's true for us. So as we practice this muscle to deepen our faith and know that the right answers will come to us, we can begin to know the feeling, the difference in the feeling in our body from something that is a good idea, that seems, right, it's makes sense. That's our head thinking. Making a choice based on, logic or making sense, might not, it might be the right one, but it also might not. And when we get in touch, like when I'm coaching with someone And they're telling me their vision, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and I wanna do that, and this is, how it, and they can describe the whole thing, but there's no energy. Like when they tap on the real thing that's calling to be created in their lives, there's this huge shift in energy, this excitement, this, you can just see it in their eyes and their body, and that's it. So the more we practice this muscle, the more we can really know in our bodies, yes, this is the decision that I want to make. Ernest Holmes says this too as well. He said, you are surrounded by a dynamic force, a great surge of living power. You are immersed in and saturated with the vital essence of life. Its presence permeates everything, binding all together in one complete whole. As you enter into life, feeling the divine presence in everything, more and more you will hear a song of joy, singing at the center of your being. You have only to be still and listen to the song of life, for it is always there. So this song of joy is what lets you be able to choose what is the right path for you and what is fear talking. So in this modern age with all of its options, we have a paradox. The things that was meant to free us, all of these choices to give us exactly what we want, has often, constricted us with the feelings of faltering confidence, with the self-created confusion, with procrastination and reckless impulse. And the worst, the yearning to surrender our own divine authority. So decision fatigue is not an unsurmountable obstacle, but rather it's an invitation to deepen that relationship, to deepen our awareness of that internal guidance system. And we can recognize that our thoughts are creative. They are the medium in which the divine brings us the life that we desire. So we know that as we begin to feel those feelings, we act as a magnet for the divine to bring us exactly. So as we learn to listen to that direct line, knowing that guidance is always there and always going to guide us to our highest. Within you lies the source of strength, the creative energy that created the universe. We have the ability to tap into the all at any moment. So let us, cultivate those inner resources. Navigate the world with clarity, with conviction, and with peace. Because we are God. I have a little prayer that I would love to lead you in. It's also in the same book. This could help you. I didn't print it out, so I'm gonna do it on my iPad, but I'd like us to just close our eyes and take a deep breath, and it's a very short prayer. So let's just I cleanse the windows of my mind, that it may become a mirror, reflecting inspiration from the Most High. And do this not with strenuous effort, but through quiet contemplation, through gently reaching and affirming an inward recognition. Today, I walk the pathway of inspiration. I know exactly what to do in every situation. There is an inspiration within me which governs every act, every thought, with certainty, with conviction, and peace. The key that unlocks the treasures of the kingdom of good is in my hand. I unlock the doorway of my consciousness and gently open it, that the divine presence may flood my whole being with its light, illumine my being with its radiant glow, and direct my footsteps into the path of peace and joy. And so it is.